Welcome back to another edition of Competitive Edge Podcast. So my guest today, we got a chance to actually meet at one of the mastermind events that I go to. And I always say this is, if you're not someone that's going to these type of events, you're not connecting and you're probably not in the right rooms to meet the people that you're saying you want to meet. So Kristy Kuhl, I remember when I first met her, I was like, hold on, what do you do? And she was telling me about this medical device sales and all these things. You'll hear some of that today. But we were talking before the show of selling things high ticket, like 2 million plus type deals for medical services there. Now think about that in 15 plus years of high performance coaching. She's got her own podcast. She's speaking on stages. She was actually in Nashville working with some of her clients. So we made sure to grab her and to pull her in. Now think about this. For everybody listening, is you want to be a high performer. At some level, you have a commitment to be better. And some of us are trying to figure out, like, how do we go from this point A to point B? High performance people, I found, they leave clues. And so we're going to unpack that. What does that look like? And a big word we were talking about before we started was alignment. And many of you, you've started to think about, what is 2025 going to look like? And we're well into the year. By the time you listen to this, could be later into the year. Are you achieving success? Are you actually living out the goals and dreams and the life that you want? Well, good news, if you're not all the way, which most of us are not all the way, we're going to help you move closer to that, right? I always say progress over perfection. We're going to help you actually become the high performer I believe God intended you to be. So let's get rocking and rolling. Kristy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
How cool is this? So you're in Nashville.
Yeah.
And I know we've been planning this. And when you said, hey, I'm in Nashville and we weren't able to connect last time, but then this time you're here. I was excited for this because I nerd out on like leadership, high performance. I'm like, I'm selfishly, I want to learn. I want to unpack all the wisdom and knowledge. But let's go back a little bit.
Yeah.
So people know like who you are, what you've done in the past. I kind of gave a little edification of like, you were telling me this before of like the things you were doing in medical device sales, which to me is ultra high ticket, difficult. I would say most people would get eaten up and spit out in that world, right? Yeah. So let's talk to what you've done before you really got into the performance coaching and things you're doing now.
Yeah, well, I'd like to start by just saying, I grew up in a one-stoplight town. So your background doesn't matter. Wherever you started that does not predict your future. And so I grew up in a one-stoplight town, and financial freedom was very important to me. Science was important to me. I wanted to learn about business. And so I went to school and got a pre-med undergrad, and then I got an MBA back to back, because at the time I thought that I needed that. I didn't need that. Yeah. Right? But at the time I thought that I did, and able to go to after what it was that I wanted. And so Johnson & Johnson trained me up to go in the OR and know what to touch and what not to touch and to keep me safe. And once I learned that, then I transitioned over into disruptive technology. So things that completely revolutionized the way that healthcare was delivered, kind of like what the iPhone did. Yes. The way that we used our cell phones and, the all-in-one devices. And so I was with a company called Intuitive Surgical, and we took the surgeon out of the sterile field and put them in the corner and in this big contraption that looked like a big video game. And everything that they did in the corner, the robot was attached to the patient bedside, and it mimicked everything. Wow. What that did from the patient perspective, though, is it gave the surgeon access to areas that were really hard to reach minimally invasively. Sure. Yeah. So, we're saving lives and changing really the recovery time and morbidity, mortality for procedures.
I love that. And I love that you shared that story about the one-stop kind of deal. Hey, this is it. This is the town I was in. Yeah. And everything from there. Do you think there's things you learned as you were a kid? I'm always curious of this, that pushed you to go and get kind of pre-med and medical school and to get an MBA and all of this stuff. Was that even on the radar? When did you say, I think this is where I'm going to go? How did you make that leap? Because I'm imagining that's probably not the norm in the town.
Yeah, not the norm at all. I always knew, I think it's really important to pay attention to your body and the way that you feel, because we're all conditioned, and we get conditioned into two identities that aren't necessarily ours. But the body doesn't lie. And if you just pay attention to the way that you feel and what your desires are and your dreams are and what you react to and what you're curious to, that's a clue. And I wouldn't ignore that at all. I was a very sensitive child. I'm still incredibly sensitive. And so I was very shy. I didn't speak up a lot and got my feelings hurt a lot. But I naturally gravitated towards science. And so when I thought okay, well, what am I going to do? I'm supposed to go to college. And I looked at all the things that I could study. I was like, well, health and anatomy is very interesting to me. I'll start there. Sure. So I started there, and I loved all the classes. And then I got about halfway through my undergrad, and I thought, well, all right, well, where am I going to go from here? And I started shadowing physical therapists, occupational therapists, doctors. And I realized that I couldn't find anything that I wanted to do. And then I thought about business, and then I was really scared because I didn't know anything about it. And I applied to get an MBA at the college I was at, and they gave me a full ride. But then again, when I was over there, I still was like, okay, how am I going to merge the two together?
Right.
And the natural merging is a master's in business administration for like healthcare, master's in health, right? Go lead a hospital, be a student. And none of that interested me either. And I thought, okay, what am I going to do with this? And so I made friends with this gal that was in my MBA program, and her future mother-in-law was an orthopedic surgeon in Michigan. So we're not going to mention any names, because she let me come in the OR and watch her do a bilateral knee replacement. Because I was like, okay, you know what? I think I want to be a medical device rep, like inside, right? Because it's the business. There's a business piece to it. There's a science piece to it. It's very lucrative.
Sure.
I'm very good at conversations and connecting with people. And so she snuck me in the OR 20 some years ago. And I remember there was a rep and his manager in the back, and I got to meet everybody. And when it came time to do the procedure, they kind of sandwiched me in. I thought, what are they doing? Because they had asked me, are you good with blood? And I was like, yeah. But then I'm looking at all these saws, and I'm like, and they're like, okay. And so they saw that I had no idea if I was good with blood. And they said, well, how are you with like smelling things being burnt, right? Like flesh.
Oh, yeah.
So they sandwiched me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, am I going to faint? I have no idea. And I didn't, which was great. And so that helped me get a vision for like, okay, this is the next step. This is the next step for me. And this is what I want to do. But if, there's kind of a theme here where having low confidence, I was thinking that I need that in order to do this, right?
Yeah.
I need to go get this MBA to be able to do that. That'll make me feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you always think that way of, well, if I do this, then I'll be ready for this.
Yeah.
If I do that, then now I can go.
And my life is opposite that now. Just go.
Which I love.
Just go.
I think most listeners will probably appreciate that as
Yeah.
because a lot of them, we hear this as they're wanting to start that next thing, or they're wanting to grow what they're in. Or, okay, they're trying to figure out, we talked about alignment before we started. Like, well, is this really what I want to do?
You probably won't know until you go figure it out.
Okay.
Go out there, do it,
and
see.
Talk about that, because there's two schools of thought. I always hear people, it's like, go out there, try it, do all the things, figure out what you like, and do that. Then you got other people like, no, you need to study, you need to research, you just need to kind of be thoughtful and like ask a lot of things.
I think that's where you get stuck.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's where you
Explain
get stuck.
that for you and what.
Well, the answers come through action.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in it, and that was a big, huge thing. I gravitated towards perfectionism. What is everybody going to think? What am I going to tell them? And that was the hardest part. Like once I decided, and we'll get to that later in my story, but once I decided to make some big career moves, it was like, well, what am I going to tell people? Because I don't have any answers. I don't know what the next step is for me. Mm-hmm. And so I think sometimes just giving ourselves the space and this permission to figure it out, and having the words to tell people, so that it kind of, gives you this space to be able to experiment and figure out without being like, okay, well, I'm going to do this. And you think about like me being in the OR, there's zero room for error. So everything that I'm saying has to be absolute, and it's important for us to have the distinguishing, the discernment in life to say like, okay, here's a place for that, and here's a place that it shouldn't be for that. And I think when you're figuring out who you are as a person and you're letting go of any conditioning, you need that safe space to be able to shift and change your mind. And also as you grow through life, for the next season that you're walking into too, because what I want in this season was different than last season.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's okay.
I think that's part of growth.
Yeah.
As you go through it, what did you learn being in, and I call it's somewhat of a high stress environment, right? When you think about when people are
beyond.
You got someone's life on the line, you got these things going on. Are there any lessons that you were able to take out of that as you started to kind of grow into that role, and obviously very successful in the role? What did you learn going through that?
That's how to manage stress. Is that the question? Yeah. Well, so there's all of that. So this person's life is on the line here. Everybody in the room is looking for me to tell them what to do, from anesthesia to the nurses in the tech's bedside to the surgeon. Sometimes because the surgeon is seeing the anatomy differently. So just a quick explanation. A procedure that would otherwise be done open, prostatectomy. Prostatectomy is very hard to do in a minimally invasive environment because it's sitting right underneath the pubic bone. So that's why the outcomes can be so poor, because they make an incision, put their hand in. It's known as the rip and tug procedure. Yeah. So if you've never really seen the anatomy from a laparoscopic approach, now you're seeing the anatomy from a different angle. And I've watched the screen before, and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's about to sew fat to fat. He thinks he has urethra, and but he doesn't have that. But I'm not a doctor, and we're past the stage of proctors. How am I going to get this person to be able to recognize this themselves?
Wow.
So there's ways to be like, okay, you know what? And you get ahead of it. Like, okay, there's going to be a part where I'm just going to tell you to relax your eyes. I'm going to have you take your head, away from the console. We're going to identify anatomy. It may feel annoying, but just play along.
Yeah.
It's part of it. Trust me, right? So you start to get ahead of all of that, because there's no way I could sleep knowing that, but I can't tell them that that's happening either. So you got to find ways for them to recognize it themselves. And it's preparation. In that setting, it's all about preparation. And so you're ready for the moment because you've prepared 6 ways to Sunday. And I think that's, when you see people on stage and you see people that are really good at sales, it's not because they just are winging it. Yeah. They've practiced in the mirror, they've role played, they've done this stuff. So you have to, confidence in that setting is built by knowing your stuff.
That's right.
And then there's the other part of we had a number to hit too. Right, so when you're spending all this time in the OR, you still have to go find new business, and and you have to manage up and manage down and manage sideways and all of those things as well. So confidence is so important in managing that stress level. Mm-hmm. But then in addition to that, where are you at your best? And are you sleeping, and are you hydrated, and is there salt in your hydration, and what things can you control, and what things in your life can you not control that are really contributing to that stress? And that was really part of the biggest reason why I left corporate America, is there's things that were contributing to a stress level, or more of an internal friction that just didn't feel right, no matter how good the money was and the titles and the prestige. And I think that's something that people really need to pay attention to. If you have a stress that you cannot reduce by yourself, by getting better yourself, then perhaps it's the environment. Perhaps it's the people that you're around.
Hey guys, it's Brian here. I hope you are enjoying the show. By the way, if you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur looking to grow your personal brand, make a bigger impact, maybe increase your leads, and grow your revenue, let's help you get started today by connecting up with my friends over at the Brand Builders Group. You've heard me talk about them, but if you're new here, this is definitely the first step to get you started in turning your reputation into revenue. Head over to freebrandcall.com/Brian Covey. Again, to set up your free brand call, go to freebrandcall.com/Brian Covey. To set up a free strategy call with one of the team at Brand Builders, and they will dive into your specific goals for how you want to grow your personal brand. I can't wait to hear how it goes. People that might be listening going, oh, that might be me. Mm-hmm. I think I'm feeling that right now. What should they be paying attention to in a way to almost verify and kind of validate, okay, that is the environment I'm in. It's not just me, or it's not just stress of the job that's normal and all that. What should they be focusing on?
Yeah, well, I'd pay attention to when you feel really good. When you feel really good and you're having a good time and you're having success, who's around you?
Yeah.
Right? And who's around you when you're not feeling good? Who's around you when you feel like you can be yourself? Where do you feel? Can you be yourself anywhere?
Yeah.
And where are you not yourself? From another thing that was a really interesting thing that I talk about a lot, and the more I talk about it, people start to pinpoint it in their own body too. Brian, I had a pain right here in my shoulder for the entire time that I was in corporate America, and this hip as well. And so I thought it was, and this did contribute, but I always wore high heels, right? So I'd be in suits and change into scrubs or whatever. Driving, got a certain way that I drive. Oh, yeah. So there was a physiology component to all of that as well. I was getting dry needled every 2 weeks, and it was the only thing that would take it away. And when I quit corporate America, I didn't go to physical therapy for 6 months, and I was going every 2 weeks for at least 2 years. I don't even want to see the receipts because it was crazy, cash based, right? This guy's amazing. I ran into him. Bill Merritt is his name. I ran into Bill Merritt at church on Easter, and he said, "Where have you been? I've been worried about you." And I said, "I quit my job." And he goes, I knew it. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, what?
You knew.
He said that, you know, there's you and somebody else that I treat that I knew that once you leave your job, it's going to change. So, you know, it's interesting because now I will tell you that pain has come back when I'm moving against my values, when I'm around people, when I'm out of alignment, it comes back. So there's something that I'm doing in my body. And the more I talk about that, the more people start to validate it in their body too. Yeah.
It's almost like a guarded posture
Yeah.
in a way of like, you don't realize you're in that mode and you're a little bit tense.
Yeah.
And I remember that mine was definitely sleep, but I remember similar things, and it was never good, you know?
No.
I'll never forget one time at my parents' house, I was traveling and they live in Memphis and happened to be there with a branch and all. And I remember I went to bed late, like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, which for me is late even then. And I was up at like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And I came down, my dad's an early riser, and I remember he came down and we were talking, and I'm like, I'll never forget him telling me like, you know, you don't have to do this. And I was like, but this is what I was, you know, I want to do this and all. And so talk to me about that, because I think a lot of people move towards, you know, my mom retired from the same place, like worked for the city of Memphis almost 30 years. And I thought, well, I'm just going to work this place forever. And we leave ourselves in these spots that are not healthy for long periods. Talk to me about that, how people, now that they can recognize some of this and maybe even physical pain, maybe not sleeping, these kind of things, how do they then begin to start to move forward towards who they're really called to be and in more alignment? Yeah,
well, I think you need to understand who your values are. Like, who are you at the end of the day? And what are the absolute non-negotiables? And so, you know, are you living in those values? And for me, you know, trust and integrity were the things that corporate America breached all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah. And so like it would never be a place that I could thrive ever. And so here I am in this, you know, high competitive world too. And I'm like, I'm such a truth teller, and I'm such, if you follow me on social and on my podcast, it's like, I'm giving you all the information that I wish that I had. Yeah. And I never had that. And so, you know, everybody's like lying about what they're doing because we're competing against each other. Yeah. So I think you have to understand what your value system is and be so steadfast in that. Who are you, and what is it that you need? So I think that is a foundation. And then, you know, you and I love to work out. We're very committed to our nutrition. We're very committed to our sleep. You know, do you think that could have been the case when I'm standing in an OR for 16 hours and I can't leave? No water, no food, right? I'm so, you know, there's these little things that to me turn into really big things.
That's right.
So if you could just like design, what would your ideal day be? And sometimes I think that sounds like so like magical, but it really is magical. Like, who are you with? What are you doing? Right? Laughter is so important to me. And people, you know, I used to be wound tighter than a drum, and I still am, but that was all that I did. And now I'm like, no, like we have to have a good time when we do all of this too.
That's right.
So if I can't be around people that I can't be my full like true self and be goofy and be smart and be serious and be like, I just don't, that's not my environment. Yeah. So are you playing full out? Are you showing all the sides of you? And what does that look like? I went to Australia. I went to a Tony Robbins event, and I went to Australia with a group of people, and I was so jealous because they all own businesses, and they could have stayed there for like a lifetime. And we'd like start our day at the coffee shop real quick, getting emails done, whatever, and then go over. But like they could have lived their whole life like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, the only reason we had to go home was because I burnt through all my vacation time.
Right.
And the whole time I was stressed about the number because I wasn't really off. So if you like start to go, okay, can you turn your brain off? And like, would you like your life to be, would you like the option to do that? Would you like the option to travel? Would you like the option to work from your phone or work from your computer? You may not. You may be like my father, who wants to walk into the same place. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. But the definition of success is your definition of success. So take out a piece of paper, and I would say schedule time every single week to just stare at the wall or stare at the tree and start identifying what does an ideal day in life look like for you. Yeah. And then once we have that, we can start to reverse engineer. The other thing that I think is really helpful, Brian, is when you're making that transition, don't focus so much on how much money you're making at this moment. How much money do you need? How much money do you need so that you can get yourself out of that place? Because oftentimes, if it's that stressful or it's that misaligned, it's going to be hard to figure out. A lot of your energy is being expelled over here, and you can't get into that creative place because to get into that, you got to shut your brain off, and you can't.
Yeah.
It's too stressful.
Yeah, they get locked in. I've been there. So somebody's thinking through this, and I'm just kind of walking through this journey with you. They start to write down their values, start to figure out, okay, what's the perfect day, maybe a perfect week look like, and they start to figure out this stuff. And I was thinking about this as, for the people that want to go, hey, you know what, where I am, I can just make it better.
Yeah.
I often say, it's like, okay, cool, like, no, I know my values. And I love what you said, because we teach this in kind of financial principles of, what do you really need to live on? Like, yes, you want to make $1 million or $2 million or whatever your 10 million, I don't know what your goal is. Like, these crazy numbers, people just come up with them. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like, what do you need to live on? For people to back into this, what's the next phase for them when they start to get some clarity and they start to realize, hey, you know what? I'm not really ready to go start something completely new.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not in a totally bad situation or environment. Like, I just need to make where I am better. Are there things that you've seen or people can do to make their current situation get improved, starting with them? Because oftentimes I feel like they look outward is where I'm going versus this, man, what am I not doing? Yeah. What do I need to work on myself?
Yeah. Well, mindset is everything. Mindset and self-awareness is absolutely everything. And, I interviewed Eddie Wilson on my podcast a couple of months ago, and we talked a lot about this. And he said, I think that true self-awareness is when you let somebody from the outside in. And I was like, oh, that is so powerful. That is so powerful, because we think that we're self-aware, but what is somebody else seeing that we're not seeing? Because at the end of the day, we're still running off of these same patterns, and the majority of it is subconscious. So can you start to invest in yourself? Can you start to be more self-aware? Can you start to see, there's this thing that I say a lot, wherever you go, you take you with you. And all the same situations could present themselves again if all you do is change your environment. Now, the environment may change it some. Sure. But you're going to show up again unless you go to work on yourself. So that's where I think, whether it's a mentor, a friend that you trust, investing in a third party, a coach, to be able to help you get to that self-awareness and start to chip away at the areas that you can improve yourself. And that may fix it for you. That very well may. Yeah.
Had this podcast I was listening to, Ed Milet was sharing this, and he said, he was talking about different skills and people have this, and he said, the people that think they're the most self-aware and will tell you, oh, I'm like a 10 out of 10. Yeah. Kristy, I got this. He made this comment, he goes, you're absolutely the one that doesn't got this. Once you think you've gotten there, you actually realize you don't. You don't. And so I love that you said that, because even this week we were talking about self-awareness. We had a speaker talking about, emotional intelligence, EQ, IQ, and then he brought up this motivational intelligence, which was somewhat new. Not to go too deep down that rabbit hole, but I would love your thought about this I hear this often. How can people become more emotionally aware of these patterns and things and thoughts that they have? Because I know I've had to work through this with coaches myself. And what have you seen in those high performers, how they move through that to become more self-aware, to realize these patterns that exist, and then, improve, move forward? Yeah.
Well, again, I think it's like, I don't feel like there's a lot of people that spend time thinking right now. We're so busy. I don't feel like anybody just, like, you have this beautiful journal sitting next to you with a pen, like, who actually just takes time and takes inventory? And perhaps you need some prompts to be able to do that. Yeah. But like, what's going really good? What are the things that you get complimented on all the time? What are feelings that you have consistently that you want to go away? Being misunderstood, that was a huge one for me. And I'm actually working with somebody on that right now. I currently am, because it's like, is what the way I'm saying it, is it landing? How are you receiving this? So, what consistently comes up for you that you don't like? Because it's not just, if we accept the fact that this is the way I always am, then that's the way you're always going to be. What are the things that you wish that would improve in your life? I would highly encourage you, once you have those identified, and you can start Googling and seeing what resources are out there, and maybe there's some podcasts, but find a coach that can really help you, that's somebody that you trust, that can help reflect back on you and work through some of those things.
So I love this conversation, because I think a lot of people are struggling, even a lot of our listeners, like, well, maybe I have a coach, but it didn't work out. And, you
Yeah.
know, maybe they're looking for a coach today.
Keep going.
Okay, well, what should they be looking for? Because
Yeah.
I think people struggle. I hear this question a lot. I don't know if you get asked this, but hey, Brian, I'm looking for a coach.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm looking for, you know, and
Yeah.
it's always like, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
You know, so how can people start to discern and figure out what do they need in a coach? Because many times I go, hey, maybe the thing that you're not being honest about yourself that you need, well, it's accountability. Just take that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That they're like, I don't really want that accountable coach.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm not
that's
ready.
actually
Yeah.
the one you need.
Yeah. Yeah.
What should they look for, and what's helped you the most in that journey having coaches?
Yeah, well, I think you need to like crack the door open wherever you can. So if you find that like I'm not ready to open that door yet, so you know I think I did 11 vision board events in January, and I do like the basic wheel of life exercise, and just because I want people to see where they are, and nobody does that. Like nobody just starts the year. We all start the year and go, okay, what do I need to? Well, hang on a second, let's get the optics, and I'll say, all right, once they have their wheel of life and nobody's balanced, just pick 3 things to work on this year. Mm-hmm. Now, if finances are something that you don't want to work on, but you know you're carrying around this boulder and your shoulder's hurting like mine was too, and you don't even open up your bank account and you're just tossing your credit card, right? We all know that person, or we've been there somewhere in our life. Maybe you should think about finally opening that door, because what you don't realize is it's pulling energy away.
That's right.
And your essence is not as bright as it should be because that thing is there. So
Yes.
maybe we just open the door. Now, if you're not ready for that, that's okay. Start with where you're ready. And when you're looking for a coach, find somebody. It's pretty easy. Can you listen to this person? Does their voice annoy you? Does their advice annoy you? Because there's some people that are like, I just can't even listen to that. And that's okay. That's not your person. Once you get past that, do they have proof of getting somebody like me to where I want to go? And do they have the proof themselves that they've done it? So some coaches, like, they may not have the actual proof of doing, but they've gotten so many people through that. They're not living that life, but they're so good at coaching, they have the systems and they can get you there. That's fine. Can you give me 5 examples?
That's it.
5 examples. And somebody with a very big name approached me recently that wanted to help me with my brand. And I said, that's great. That's great. Can you just help me, give me an example of a Kristy? Somebody came in just like this, what'd you do? And they quickly shifted and said, I think we should work on creating a relationship and getting to know each other better. Okay, well, that tells me that you don't have any proof, right? Because if you had the proof, you'd just give me the names or you'd give me the testimonials and we'd be able to do it. So don't be afraid to ask the questions and look for the proof. I think in this space, there's a lot of people that are talking about things, and it's why I love you so much. Is you're just like, you breathe, integrity just comes off of you. Like that is just who you are, and I really appreciate that. So find somebody who's got the receipts of either done it themselves or has put people through it and gotten them to success. And if they haven't, then thank you very much.
Yeah.
Keep on moving.
And nobody's ever said the one you said to start off, and it hit me, is if somebody, you can't listen to their voice, or it's just something, that's just not your person.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's like, I can't get past this or I can't get past that, and maybe we line up on this, but over here is not.
Yeah.
I love the receipts too, and that you ask the question.
Yeah.
I think we're so scared to ask.
Yeah.
I had someone recently, I'll share this with everybody because it may help them, is I had someone reach out and they wanted my help. And I remember telling them, I said, I don't know that I'm the best person for you, but let's talk through this. They're like, hey, have you helped anybody do this? And I had to tell them, I haven't with what you're trying to do, but here's what I have that I think is parallel. Yeah. And you tell me if that will help you. But no, I have not worked with, and it was in a social media agency. And I said, those are not my clients.
Yep.
I work with mortgage professionals and leaders, and that's my jam, right? Yep. Like, we're recruiting, personal development. But what you're wanting to do, I think there's a layer of leadership and culture that I can help you get to. Mm-hmm. And then you go find the more specialized person. Mm-hmm. And I remember them going, you know what? That sounds great. And so I just share that because for people, it's like, just tell them the truth.
Yeah.
If you're on the other side as the coach and go, I don't have that experience that you're asking for there, but here's my body of work. Yeah. And here's what I have helped people go from here to here over time. Yep. So let's jump into yours, because where I'm going with this is, you have helped people. You're talking about 15 years helping people get that high performance and get to the next level. What do you find in people today? Because I think about in 2025, it is freaking
different,
chaotic. It's different. That's the best word for it. It's like leadership when I got in corporate America, 2001, and even some of those years. What it is now looks, feels, it's all different. Yeah. What are some of the trends you're paying attention to or you've seen in that leadership realm today?
I just had this conversation today, actually, because I was talking about, people ask me a lot about confidence and how do I show up so confident, and also how do I allow vulnerability in the conversation, but still remain confident. And I didn't realize that that's a skill that I really should be teaching.
You should be.
And
I'll validate that for you too.
Yeah. And so it's like, so as a leader, when I was leading teams, there's this methodology called situational leadership, Ken Blanchard.
Oh yeah, love it.
And I absolutely love that because it has nothing to do with the person. It has to do with the thing, the task at hand,
Yes.
right? The skill, et cetera. So all of us that are high achievers, it's always hard. Like you get the 90 things that are great and you got the one area of improvement because you have to, and it's like, I would cringe over that and everybody does, right? That is that way. But it really does soften all of that. And I believe that's where we're lacking in leadership, is whether it's corporate America, small company, is recognizing that vulnerability does not mean that they're not confident. So if I ask you for help in one thing, Brian, like maybe I'm not confident in that thing, but there's no way that I'm going to allow you to make me feel like, because I don't know this thing, that I'm still not a confident person.
That's right.
Right? It doesn't change who I am as a person. It's this one thing that I'm asking you for help for. And I feel like that is such a huge area of opportunity for us as leaders, whether we're leading our children, ourselves too. Like how many people are suppressing themselves because they allowed somebody, and I was just, again, having this conversation today. Coaches sometimes do this too. They're validating the need for themselves. So they show where you may have a deficit, and then they're like, oh my gosh, how could you ever, right? Well, yeah, you know what? I'm still good at all these other things, and I hired you to help me with this thing over here, right?
Yes.
So like, let's not get it twisted. So don't let anybody tell you who you are, right? And have... But I think as people, we have to be careful, because a lot of leaders, a lot of people that have authority and are making decisions are taking that one thing and diagnosing the entire person. So you understand situational leadership. So I think you understand what it is that I'm trying to say.
We went through that at Wells, and I remember one of the best courses, and they actually put us through weeks of that.
Oh yeah.
And reading the book and going through all of this. And I remember it's one of the greatest things I tell is, and you probably had this, I'm sure at J&J and like corporate world, teaches you some things you just don't get outside of there.
Yeah.
And I go, man, those are building blocks.
Yeah.
But then I had to learn this whole other area. But situational leadership, for people that may not understand it in their world today, are there things that they can start? I mean, great book to read, but are there resources for them? Because I always think about like, how can I equip somebody after this?
Yeah.
Where would you go learn more about this for those leaders that want to get better?
Yeah, I think YouTube is a great resource. And I'm, my coaching style is like watch a 20-minute video and put it into action.
Yes.
Find somebody who knows this stuff. And so I don't walk people through these huge workshops. I think that's, when somebody says, oh, go read the book and then apply that to your team, really? No, it should be the culture it should be everything of what we're doing. Yeah. So I think if you were to YouTube situational leadership, Ken Blanchard is the founding father of all of that. Yeah. Now you can hire that company to come in and do workshops if you want to really get that ingrained. But it's very simple, and I love the fact that being a visual learner, I'm all about systems. Like you can pull out. I would laminate all that for my leaders and pull that out and say, okay, well, all right, Brian. Well, where what are we working on here? Which person is in need? Diagnose them at the task. Okay, they're a disillusioned learner. Okay, well that means they tried it and didn't go well, so now their confidence went down. Okay, here's how we lead. Yeah, and there's a lot of resources on YouTube.
I love that. I want to give people something to work for.
Yep.
What are your thoughts? And I always love to know in leadership about some of the tests that are out there, right? I mean, we got DISC profiles, we got 360 feedback stuff out there. There was one someone said, I've done Enneagram, and then there was one other one someone sent. Are there any of those that you like to use and default to that you feel like are really good at helping people?
My all-time favorite.
Yeah, I got
all-time favorite, human design.
Okay, tell me about this. I don't know this one.
You don't?
No, human design. I've heard of it. Never taken it myself. Never done it.
I'm telling you, as an individual. Okay. So, DISC profile, if anybody wants to guess, high D, high I.
Okay.
Right? Done all that. Done all the reds, blues, greens, all the personality stuff. And I think that they're all amazing.
Yeah.
I think they're all amazing. I think that we have to understand that it's a snapshot.
Okay.
That doesn't tell us everything about the person, right? It's a snapshot. And you can do 3 or 4 of them and get different angles, different views. And you're somebody like me where you can see this way and this way and this way and this way. But just understanding that each one of those tests is just seen one way. So take that with your own knowledge and put it all together. Human design is, it takes you put your birth date, your time of birth, and your location of birth. And it is the most complex test. When you get the readout from that simple information, it is the most complex test. Now, I'll tell you a couple things really quickly here. The baseline printout that you get, the feedback that you get, will tell you your energy type. So I'm a generator. I generate energy wherever I go. Shocker, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
Shocker. Now, I have to be very careful about who I give my energy to because my energy gets drained pretty quickly. And the way that I make decisions is based off of how I feel when you present me with the idea. So I'm paying attention to my body and I'm like, okay, how does this feel? Do I get excited about this? Do I not? I never make decisions when I'm up here or down here, which should be true for the majority of people. But if I'm excited about it up here, I wait till I'm back to neutrality. And if I'm still excited about it, my body's going to tell me. All my decisions are made off of that and gut instinct. That's everything. I don't have the ideas. I never, and this is what really, I was so hard on myself when I left corporate America because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I'm a generator with human design. I generate energy wherever I go. Part of being a generator is we don't have all the ideas. So what I have to do is I have to put myself in situations where I can respond to something and ask myself yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. So so somebody found me online this week. And he said, you have a very interesting profile. And wasn't sure if he was like trying to pick me up or if he was trying to. And so then I looked at what he was doing, and he had 2 different businesses, big time businesses, and he's looking for his third. And he said, these things just fell in my lap. They just fell in my lap and I can't figure out what I want to do next. Well, I know human design, he's probably a generator too. They didn't fall in his lap. It felt like it fell in his lap, but he was in the right place when he's like, oh, that's what I want to do. And he said, yes. So I explained all of this to him. I ran his chart. He's a generator as well. And the answer to that is you need a lot of exposure. So don't compare to this person. I feel like it brings comparison down. You are a generator. You need to expose yourself. When you see it, you will know, right? Because you're going to feel it in your body. It's going to be a gut instinct. You're probably going to get excited. Wait till you're back to neutrality before you pull the trigger. So helping people understand. Now, let me tell you just one other example. So there's a woman who found me on Instagram. She searched for high performance coaching. And so we had a conversation. She said, do you think that you can help me? I said, it was a Saturday. I said, let's jump on a Zoom. I don't know if I can help you or not. Tell me the situation. I'll tell you if I think I can help. She told me the situation. I could see that this person was so conditioned and she was so far away from operating in who she is because she's, pleasing from childhood, and it just continues to carry on. She's not a generator. She's a manifesting generator. What that means is that manifesting generators can pick up lots of things. And when they pick up lots of things, they quickly become experts in it. And then you think that, I shouldn't be teaching this because I just learned it yesterday, but you learned it so much faster than, you can launch the course tomorrow. That's a manifesting generator. But, the other thing with manifesting generators, I asked her this question. Has anybody ever told you that you never finish anything that you start? And emotionally, it just all came out. She said, everywhere. I can't finish anything that I start. I said, well, what if I were to tell you that manifesting generators, she knew that I ran a chart, they leave things when they're finished with them. When they got the lesson, when they got the thing, they're done. You're done. You did finish it. You did finish it. You just need to leave it alone. Think what that would do for a person who's constantly comparing themselves. And I'm no different. I was just doing this too. Why don't I have any of the ideas?
Yes.
Right? Well, now I know how to get the ideas. I got to see it. And then I got to ask myself, yes or no, Kristy. And then I got to feel in my body. So we could go very deep, but that human, I just ran somebody's chart that I met through Ben Newman's group.
Yeah.
He met me at the hotel this morning. We were talking about things and it totally blew his mind. And so to me, that is, I feel like the world is misaligned. We're all trying to do things that we think are going to get us a certain feeling, and we're away from our definition of success, and we're away from and we know it though. We know that we know, but we still do it anyway because nobody is giving us this information. So I'm on a huge mission to help people connect with who they are. Yeah, that's my favorite one.
We're going to have to link that because I've not heard of it. I think people are going to really benefit because as you're going through it, I'm thinking, how many times have people thought they were failing?
Yeah.
And yet, even in that example, she had finished.
Yeah.
She had gotten to that finish line. Maybe not somebody else's finish line, but it's like, who do I hand it off to now on the team? Like, I've done my piece. Now I need to hand it off.
Yeah.
And move forward.
Yeah. Well, then that's the thing. So, like, just to talk about that just a little bit more. So, one of the ladies in my coaching group, she invented a vegan cheese with macadamia nuts. It is so incredibly good, and she's a master at that. So through the coaching, like, okay, we had the business plan, and she got it into all these farmers markets. One of the most coachable people that I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And so now it's like, okay, well, let's get it into Whole Foods. Okay, let's put a strategy together. Well, she wants to go back in the kitchen and create. I'm like, we don't need 17 more flavors. We got it. We got it. And knowing that she's a manifesting generator, though, she needs that to be her. Yeah. Because they need a lot of different things, and so for her to do that, it's scratching it's making her just like you and I need to go work out. Mm-hmm. So we know that, and so she has to carve a part out so that she can scratch that itch and become whole. Yeah. And then the question becomes: do we deploy discipline and consistency over here to get the Whole Foods, to get it in the stores, to figure it out, or is this the time that we hire somebody, or we give it to somebody else to do? Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I love that. And I think a lot of people do struggle in that because it's like their identity and they're trying to compare themselves. Like you said, like I'm comparing my gifts to your gifts, and I'm going, well, I'm not winning. I mean, Kristy's over here. She's just crushing it, doing all these things. I can't do those. Yeah. And I think about many leaders, they don't even know their gifts.
No.
And so how do you then go serve when you don't know yourself?
Yeah.
It's like this cycle. And you talked about that. Okay, I got to ask this one too, is I think about high performance, and you're laying out, that is a cool test that I want to take because I want to know more. Where do I
want to know what you are too.
Yeah, I do. I'm like, which one am I? What should leaders be thinking about this year with all of the AI stuff going on, right? We get this question a lot, technology and things. Are there different ways, communication-wise, that leaders should be leveraging some of that tech, and you think communicating more effectively out with their teams, if they have a team today? Because I'm looking at all the tech that's out there, all of the AI out there, and yet then I still see this craving for like people want like human connection more.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm the right person to answer this question because I don't lead teams anymore and I don't give advice on this, but I do know, I agree with what you said on the back end there. I think that any place that is energy that's not personalized and connected, any place that you can do that and you don't sacrifice anything, you need to do it. Mm-hmm. Because I think that allows you to really double down on personalization, authenticity, and having that focus. And if you're a person that's expending all of your energy to do the things that are over here that you could outsource without jeopardizing the relationship, then do that. Because if this is your sweet spot, which everybody needs to have that, get rid of all that stuff. Make life easier. Outsource as much as you can, but you cannot let go of the human interaction and your connection.
I agree.
Yeah.
We've talked about working out some. I got to ask this because I love my guests that actually are into fitness and workout. So one, like what's been the journey there? Because I think a lot of people are, I heard this even this week, like, I'm getting back, I'm trying to get back. I know my health's important. And I just, you hear these things and I'm like, man, you hear it, but the difference between some people and like you're out there, like you're actually doing it and you're consistent, and you've talked about identity and some of these things today. Like, why is it you still work out? Like what's in it for you? Why do you do this?
I started it because I wanted to look a certain way.
Yeah.
And I think that was part of attention. That was part of confidence. That was part of being a differentiator. It's easy to see the movie in reverse and have all the words for it. That's where it started. Like it gave me confidence to have my body a certain way. I do it now for that, but more than anything for the mindset. The endorphin release is real. It is real. I still keep my chicken list on the front seat of my car. And, so because the endorphin release is so real, when I get out of there, I'm superwoman. Like all the things that are hard, that I still have things that I don't want to do, phone calls that I don't want to make, hard conversations, things that I want to go for. And it's either getting off of live TV or after a workout. It does something. And I know I call it leveraging your physiology. That's when I do that harder stuff. It's not as hard anymore. Yeah. So it's it is more from my mind than it is anything else, for sure. But I want to live a long time and I want to feel good.
Amen. Yeah. Well, I see you doing it. I know our mutual friend with Ben. I'm like, that next level for everybody. I'm like, man, when you can crack that code, you get there. The energy, the confidence you have, like it's literally what's the difference maker. Yeah. I found in high performers, and I know you work with them. Do you find that high performers typically have that little bit of course I call it competitive edge, but like that little bit of edge to them about they're always just competing for the best thing for them, or competing in some type of game?
Yeah, like can we turn it? How do you turn it off?
I don't think there's a switch.
I really don't. And to share a personal story, like I ran into a rut myself. I was always like the Gold's Gym girl, and then I moved 2 years ago, and I was like, I just need to break this up. I need something different. And I started going to Burn Boot Camp. And actually, right before I met you, I was walking my dog on a flat sidewalk, and I sprained my ankle so bad. Like it was so bad that I had to bend down and hold it, and I'm like, this is really not going to be good. I sprained it again when I was in Georgia when I met you at that event.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is and I still am going to physical therapy for my hamstring because it goes all the way up. I walked into Burn Boot Camp throughout all of this, and I got the day wrong because they have different workouts each day. And I was like, oh, I got it. I hope we're not sprinting today. I have a sprained ankle. Yeah. And I walk in and I see the cones and I'm like, oh gosh, I never come on this day, right? And I'm like, okay, I had it. Mentally in my head, I had it, Brian. And I was like, okay, go down, pivot on the good foot, right? Keep pivot on the right, pivot on the right. I had it in my head, right? Take it easy, Kristy, pivot on the right. I'm 44 years old, Brian. Yeah. The guy next to me wanted to race in my head.
Of course he did. Could be true or not.
Right? And so he was right there, right? And I remember telling myself, if you do this again, you're going to be in a boot and you have nobody else to blame. And I couldn't stop it. I went full throttle, and thank goodness I did nothing to it. So I think it's really hard. It's really hard to turn that off. Yeah.
I've had those moments. I had one of those with some double unders, and I sprained my calf, and kind of all that going on. I'm like, I think I feel good enough. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try this again. Man. I'm like, I don't want to change the workout. I don't want to do this. I'm like, man, I'm competing today. I don't even know if anybody else. They don't even know what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm like, but I'm doing this, and we put ourselves in that way.
It's just the way we are. It just is. And when Ben Newman's, I don't know if you saw that reel, but I did the 13-minute plank,
which is crazy.
Longest plank I had done before that was 4 minutes, and I was so sore from doing his workout the 2 days. I don't do that workout. I did it the 2 days before, but I got in there and I'm looking around and I'm like, ooh, it just you get in. That's the thing that people don't realize is you get around people, and it doesn't have to be that intense, but you get around high performers and you're just gonna think and act differently. That environment.
I saw something the other day, and they talked about the proximity to people physically and that you talk to, hang out with, and all that. And the more and more studies, it's like, man, if you're just consuming that and talking about this. And we left our event this week, and there's 4 of us, and we're putting together this small little mastermind within our company, and it's faith and family and fitness and finances, and it's like we're just going to crush it, but everybody's got to be on the same standards with that. And we all want to improve there. If one of those components isn't there, then that's okay. Not a fit for this group.
Right.
We'll do something else. Right. But I was so excited that we left, and a few people just came together we need to be talking more. Yeah. Because that energy, we realized that what you said earlier was we realized we were our best. We had energy. We were excited about those conversations. We're not excited about some of these other conversations. So don't go have those as often. If you don't have to, don't do them.
And that's a good point, because there should be a way. That's a sign, because if your life has a lot of that in there, a change needs to be made. Like hard conversations have to happen. You know, you can't choose your family.
Yeah.
You can choose your friends.
That's right.
You can choose the people that you're working around. Even though you may think that you can't, you absolutely can. And then you shift and change the people that are in your life that you can't make. Like, how am I going to interact? What's it going to look like? There's a strategy for all of that. But the vast majority of your life should be what you just said, around those people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if
You
it's
had me thinking
not,
that.
you got to start there. You
I
got to
love
start
that.
cleaning that up.
Well,
Yeah.
for everybody listening, that's the next step. I have found often in my life of leveling up and learning the most, it's like, I need less time here and I need more time there.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, I'm attracted to this group because the energy, what our conversations are actually about.
Yeah.
I leave going, man, I think and believe I can do like a lot more.
Yeah.
And it's possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell you one last quick story. So when I got divorced, it was like this little period of time where I gave myself free rein and had a boat on the lake and, was partying more and having fun. And I went to my first Tony Robbins event. And he said, you become the 5 people that you hang around with most. And I came home from that event and I was like, uh-oh.
Not what
And
I
it
envisioned.
was so much fun. And I was new in Charlotte and I didn't know anybody. Yeah. And so it was a time that I shouldn't have isolated, but I needed to take that advice of his and start cleaning that up and stop doing that. And I didn't have that environment. So what I did was I spent a lot of time alone, but with books and podcasts. So there is if you're feeling like, gosh, I don't have anybody to go to, or they're spread out around the country. That's the beautiful thing about technology right now is you can feed that information and create that environment until you find the right people.
I love it. I just curated this year coming in and dropped a lot of people. I'll just say off my social media, like, you know what?
Yeah.
And it's funny because every once in a while, Instagram is great about this. They'll recommend certain ones. Like, no.
Yeah.
Like I'd stop that for very
reason.
specific.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear them, and particularly in the male influencer space, I'll just say like, you just don't know who's real and not, and you get something like
same on the female.
I'm like, I don't need that in my feed, so I eliminate. And so share that so people are listening, going, if that's something that's a trigger for you, or you notice that pattern of like, you just feel out of sync when you see that, it's not really helping you move forward. It's not a Tony Robbins video where I go,
it's not.
Oh man, I feel inspired.
Yeah.
I feel motivated to go do something better in my life. Cut it out.
Yeah, and the scroll and compare too. If you're finding yourself scrolling and comparing, which I think we all have done at one time or another, take them off of your feed too.
Yeah.
Stop searching for it.
Yeah.
You're running your own race. Get crystal clear on what it is that you need to work on. And if there's anybody that you want to follow people that you know are where you want to go.
Love that.
That are sharing that online.
I've heard that common theme from so many people this year, and it is so overlooked. And it's like, go figure out who they really are.
Yeah.
And then those are the ones. And you don't need 100 of them.
Nope.
So it's always like, you just need a small group.
Yeah. Give yourself permission to ask the questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who has the receipts?
Yes. We'll check them. Well, this has been awesome. What are you doing next? Everybody's probably going to want to know. We're going to link in all of your socials, everything there. But what's Kristy doing next?
Yeah. So, I'm always full transparency. I have a coach too. And so I'm working right now on what the platform looks like.
Cool.
Yeah, what the platform looks like. Who am I serving? Right now I launched this women's group coaching program. There's so much more of that to come. Yeah. So this year, all of that's going to be developed out, the full platform.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Well, we're in your corner.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see where this goes, because I love seeing people step up into their purpose. And it's like, okay, how do we create these synergies and go serve more people?
Yes, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an honor, Kristy. Thank you. You've inspired me. I'm going to have to go take that test after this now, because I want to know.
Yes, I can't wait.
Generator,
we're going to do it before I leave.
Okay.
I got the app on my phone.
I am in, and we'll share it with everybody. So
I love it.
Yeah, that way we'll share the results so people can go take it on their own.
Yep.
Figure out who they are.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate just who you are as a person.
Likewise.
I really do. I feel so aligned with you. Your message is so clear. And you're a person of faith and integrity, and that means so much to me.
We want to change the world.
We are. We're going to do it.
That's
We're going to do it.
Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in for another episode. This has been awesome. I can't wait. We're going to share the test results, as I told you. But for each of you, go back and listen to what prompted you the most. I always think about these conversations are designed in a way to kind of pull at you a little bit and pull things out that you go, I do need to do that, or I need to make that change. And I often found, maybe even Tony Robbins said this, the fastest you can make that change in that time, the sooner you make it, the sooner you're going to get towards that better version of yourself and that life you've designed. So it's not a wait till tomorrow. It's not a wait until next week thing. If something prompts you to make a change, make it now and let us know. That's why we do the show. That's why we do what we do. And I'll ask you this last little favor. We don't really monetize or do much with this podcast, but what I will share is if you will share this with other people, leave us a review, like and subscribe, all of that kind of cool stuff, and share it with your network and people, then that's the way we grow this. And I believe that collective impact from what we've done and what you're doing, you start to share it out there, you become the authority, you become a connector, you become that person that people want to be around more. And so thank you for tuning in to another great episode. Make sure you follow. We'll have Kristy's information there, connect up with her podcast, connect up with all she's doing on social, and go out there and do something great in your own life from today. So until the next episode, go out there and leverage your competitive edge in the marketplace and watch how your business and your life starts to thrive. See ya.